You never pretend to be the know-it-all to impress a customer if you don't know what you're talking about. We have grown so much because we were not afraid to say, we don't know. But you know what we're good at? We know how to research. No one can research better than us. And once we find out the answer, we're going to become the experts at this issue.
Now, you guys emphasize client communication and ongoing partnerships. So how did that become like a core differentiator for you and your firm?
So our customers get a system where they can see every day what's happening. We also put a chronological calendar to let them know the expectations for what's to come. Okay. Because the main thing we identified is managing customers' expectations and managing customers' anxiety. And anxiety only builds up with time if you don't answer the customer's phone call, if you keep them in the dark. We try to over-communicate. If you leave them at ease, that's all they want.
Welcome to the Leverage Lounge, the podcast where high-performing entrepreneurs pull back the curtain and reveal how they scale using people, systems, tech, and capital. I'm your host, Mike Collier, and today's episode is a real estate development masterclass. We're sitting down with the founders of VP Development Enterprises, based right here in Clermont, Florida. Now, these guys didn't just build a development firm. They built an ecosystem. From residential communities to commercial assets, they've mastered the art of taking big visions and turning them into real revenue-producing projects. Patrick Bianchi brings a sharp edge from the commercial brokerage world, and Victor Berriel adds the legal expertise and global investor connections. Together, they've built something that's not just scalable, but sustainable.
Thank you so much for that
Mike.
intro there.
Good morning.
Absolutely.
Good morning. Good to see you, Mike.
Good day. I'm really excited to have you guys on. We'll talk a little about how we met and the projects that we have going on through some mutual clients and all of that stuff, man. But I just want to dive right into it and find out about how you came up with this. So you guys are both the co-owners, co-founders of VP Development Enterprises. What inspired you both to launch VP Development in Clermont? And how did your backgrounds in brokerage and law inform that early vision?
Well, you don't have the V without the P, so you don't have the Victor without the Patrick. So that's how we came up with the name. I worked at a real estate firm at the time, was Avalar Real Estate. It was a very boutique brokerage in the Clermont area region of Lake County. And I was kind of known as the land guy. So I had a lot of land listings, mainly in commercial. Through my tenure there from 2014 onward, there was a gentleman that came into the brokerage that our broker was like, hey, you have to meet this guy. I think that you would take a liking to him, and I think you guys can make a good team. So that's kind of how it started. So Victor can talk about his perspective, but that's at least how it was communicated to me.
It was the same exact way, Mike. We worked at the same real estate company, didn't really know each other. And then our broker, she said the same thing to me. She's like, hey, Victor, your energy and your contacts, you have to meet Pat Bianchi. He's young, energetic, extremely smart. He's very well connected in Clermont. And I'm like, okay. And I'm a lone wolf guy, man. I'm solo. I'm not used to working with other people. That's just my personality. Nothing against working with other people. It's just I've never had that opportunity before. So when I met Patrick, it was kind of a perfect business marriage because I came from a legal background where I worked in immigration, and I had tons of international clients that were interested in building, investing, developing for visa purposes. So when I was in Avalar, I had the clients, but I didn't have the projects or the properties. And then enters Patrick, and he had all the perfect properties for my clients to purchase. So we're like, hey, if we put 1 and 2 together, we have the magic sauce. That's the gravy train right there.
That's good, man. It's like love at first sight. You guys saw each other and were like, you're exactly who I've been looking for my whole life.
Yes.
Pretty much.
I love it. Now, you guys emphasize client communication and ongoing partnerships. So how did that become like a core differentiator for you and your firm?
You could take that one, Vic.
Client communication is incredible for us because in our world, things change, and they change very rapidly, from updates for when materials are being delivered, things are being inspected, many different phases of the project. And we always found in this construction industry, and it's actually why we got into development in the first place, when we first started working together, we wanted to do the real estate side of things, put the deal together, run the numbers, do our diligence, underwrite the deal, make sure everything matches. But then things started to fall apart because you're bringing in an outside contractor, you're bringing in outside engineers, you're bringing in architects, you're bringing in many different people that they're essential pieces of the puzzle to be able to make the project work. And when you are the person controlling the project and you have the client, and outside of your control, you have other third parties that won't communicate as efficiently as your client need them to, or it's their part of the deal to uphold their end of the bargain and deliver, it kind of creates frustrations and fragmentations, and it puts us in a very difficult situation where we wanted to communicate with our clients, but we had nothing positive to communicate. So those were like really difficult moments where we had to do a gut check, and we had to say, man, we have to change the system, because I will no longer be in a position where my customers are getting upset with me because I can't either give timely communication, or sometimes they just want a good feedback. They just want to hear from you what's going on, because my hands were tied. And that's actually answering one question and leading into another topic. That's why we created VP Development. We said, hey, no more. We will deal with this. We're going to create a system where we can control the entire scope of the project from A to Z, so that now if something falls apart, it's 100% our fault. The responsibility is on our shoulders. So we owned up to that responsibility. We now control the entire scope. So now we have systems that Patrick put together, which is a live timeline. So even before our customers asks, hey, what's going on with this project? Or what's going on with that deal? Or what was the answer on this? Or what phase of the construction project are we in? We update that daily. So our customers get a system where they can see every day what's happening. We also put a chronological calendar to let them know the expectations for what's to come. Because the main thing we identified is managing customers' expectations and managing customers' anxiety. And anxiety only builds up with time if you don't answer the customer's phone call, if you keep them in the dark. Nobody, I don't care how complex or how simple the transaction is, no one likes to be in a position where they don't know what's happening. So we try to over-communicate. If you leave them at ease, that's all they want.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think that when you're able to anticipate your customers' needs, then you can build a bigger business. You can build a better business. And so when you do that and you do it effectively and you see where it worked and where it didn't work, you just kind of tweak those levers. And you brought up a really good point. We all know success is a team sport. Success is rarely ever a solo sport. Nobody gets to success by themselves. And so you guys saw all of these imperfections, let's say, in the process, the way you started out doing it. And then you said, you know what? Let's create VP Development Enterprises and bring this thing in-house. For some people, that could be the kiss of death because it becomes a control problem. Now they want to control everything, which means that they want to do it all themselves. So question to you guys, how have you built your team? Like, who did you bring on first when you began scaling, and why was that so important?
I'll take this one. First and foremost, there's a front-facing aspect to our business, and then there's a behind-the-scenes. And to kind of bridge the gap between front and back, what Victor was saying is we create those interactive tools that are widely available now for everybody to use, that gives the client an update from a daily transactional perspective, expectations as to delivery. And we all know the construction industry is very volatile. It's wild with respect to the estimations of when materials come in or when things can happen. COVID really put a damper on those things with supply chain issues. And these are things that we battle daily with material availabilities and substitutions of materials. Now we have lending institutions that will lend on construction, and they have a process of inspection prior to issuance of their draw. So we have to make sure that it's an educational perspective of anybody that wants to get in this industry, because they have to understand the processes and things that they're going to face. And with the education that we've gotten over the years of policies changing from institutions, from policies changing within the material world, international deliveries and so on, Amazon's obviously helped. We're essentially, like Victor is saying, over communicating in that aspect. And also from the back end, to answer your question, the team that we have built with our sub-consultants and subcontractors and our vendors is very unique even today, over the 10 years that we've done this, what do I mean? Well, let's take a framer, for example. If I have a framing contractor or a sub consultant and they do work for me, typically in the construction industry, they're 30, 60, 90 days before they get paid in most scenarios. For
Okay.
Victor and I, we pay them on Friday. If they finish, let's say on a Thursday, they're invoicing me Thursday afternoon. We make sure the work is done to our satisfaction, building code and so on. We'll cut them a check or we'll Zelle them or we'll pay them on Friday. It creates a culture. And I know we'll talk about culture because I think that's very important, not only in
Yeah.
the workplace, but also on the job site, is you're creating this culture of now if Patrick and Victor makes a phone call with an emergency need, they know that if they finish that task, they're getting paid. Whereas they might be working for somebody else and they know that they're not going to get paid for 30, 60, 90 days. So who are they going to go to first? So Victor and I made that commitment from a competitive perspective to say, let's take care of our subs before we eat. That just has to be the mentality. And then it pays dividends as you build that relationship over the years that we've built. And I laugh to say that most of our sub consultants and vendors we've been working with for 10 years.
Wow.
So that's a testament to the culture that we've created. And we're a two-man operation to the extent that we don't have employees. But you would almost think we do because of how close we are with our sub consultants, our contractors, and vendors. I've had vendors, big name vendors. I'll call and say, hey, we're missing such and such truss, or we're missing X amount of bolts and screws. That salesperson knows that one, we're going to make good on our invoices, and two, our name has weight and that takes time. So they're going to put it in their truck and they're going to deliver it to us. They're not going to send it out for next day delivery or 2-3 days from now. So we've built that over 10 years. It takes time to build that. And it really comes down to the culture that we've set.
I'm glad you bring that up because I wanted to dive into the culture of how you establish culture in your company. Paying 30, 60, 90 days before everybody else gets paid. That's obviously a great culture. That's sticky. But how are you making it sticky when these are not your employees per se? Because, dude, I used to do real estate investing when I was flipping homes. I'm sure you guys understand the struggle. Like having contractors, like it can be an absolute nightmare. You can have some close partnerships, but it can be a nightmare if you don't have the right people in place and keep them working to keep them on your project so that they don't end up going to another project. And so let's talk about that. Let's dive deeper into the culture.
Sure. So when we select our sub trades and sub consultants, Victor and I even carry this out into more of a business incubation model that we have as a landlord as well. So we'll talk about that. We want to make sure that that person eats, sleeps, and breathes and needs, when they wake up every day, they need to go to work. If we get that organization that could care less if we hire them or not, we don't want them. It's a reciprocal thing where I'll take our framing crew as an example. They need, because they have families, they support their kids and their kids' kids. We laugh because the owner's son is on their fourth kid. So we know that, but for construction and what they do, they're not going to make money. They won't survive. And so their hunger and their willingness to work is what we look for, first and foremost. Secondly, we understand everybody's human. There's going to be mistakes. Whether they read the plans incorrectly, they install something wrong. It's for me to identify those things, but it's not for me to go and lash out at them and punish them. There's always a solution. I always say there's no problems, there's only solutions. And so if we can create that culture where they know that Patrick is not going to come to the job site and charge them a yin yang, or maybe make them remove trusses if they're not spanning correctly. No, let's pick up the phone with an engineer and say, hey, this is our current situation. Is there any modifications, or is it good? And if it's good, all I do is get a letter. And now I haven't created more work just to be that guy to create more work. So I think they appreciate the outside of the box thinking. Now, do I have expectations that they are responsible and they read plans correctly? All of those things, and they're good, and the workmanship is what we expect it to be, of course. But from time to time, things happen. And so I think they gravitate towards us in our projects because of those things. And so the byproduct is you see our projects finish faster because we are able to make those calls. And it's just a really cool environment on our job sites. Trades work on top of each other. So you can sometimes have multiple trades. They all know each other and they all share each other's contact information and want to work together in the future because it's the culture that we've created. And that just translates to a successful project for the end consumer, for us in our own projects, or you as a broker that refers people to us.
It's really like a family. A lot of people laugh because they're like, man, these guys are your subs. I thought they were your employees. Because for like over a decade, we've had the same exact subs. And the reason they stay with us is because we respect them as people. And like, I speak Spanish, I speak Portuguese, I talk to them in their language, I ask them how they're doing, I cook for them. We bring food to the job sites, we hang out. We really have a friendship because you can't fake empathy. If it's not authentic, you can't fake that. So our crews, they know that we care about them. They know that we understand that everybody is entitled to have a bad day one day or another. But Pat was saying at our job sites, everyone gets along. We've never had fights, arguments, any misunderstanding of any type. It's a fun, high energy environment that every time a customer visits the job site unannounced and calls us, they're like, Victor, your guys are here. They treated us great. They're all happy. Everything's moving along. And that's one of the secrets to keeping these subs and to having this working relationship.
So you bring up something, man, that's really important, I think, at this point, to help people understand just kind of what we're talking about, the scale of your company. How many projects do you have going on at any given time, or even just right now? I know you do some commercial stuff. You guys got residential stuff that's happening. Give us a scale of kind of what it looks like as a snapshot in the business right now.
Pat?
Yeah. So the number of projects, I guess, is equally as important potentially. It ranges from 15 to 20 projects at a time, which to some is very significant. Now, what are those projects?
Yeah, the scale of those projects, right?
Yeah,
Let's talk about that.
You could have a hotel or you could have a single family residential tiny home. So those categories. Our projects range from franchise model commercial. We're doing office, medical, dental expansions, currently gastroenterology. So we have vast knowledge with ACA and medical reconstruction and surgery centers and things. Single family residential for a lot of high net wealth people, business owners, things like that. We're very selective in that world in residential because it's much different than commercial in nature. But the reason why we are where we are and as thin as we are, right? Because you look at us and say, wow, you're only two people. How are you possibly managing effectively all of these projects at once? It's because of our systems. AI has certainly helped us in large part currently to be able to take on more because every day we're getting emails through our website form. We don't advertise like at all, like $0 in marketing, period. And we're blessed enough to be able to say that. And really, it's all referral based. It's our projects that get executed. You've seen on our website and maybe even on other platforms that the media has covered us in multiple forms, whether it's the newspaper, the Claremont Sun, Fox News, whoever, they've all covered our projects in large part. And so we are referral based. I wouldn't say we're a super large company. We're not a 100 million plus company, but we have systems now that could scale us to that today, and we don't have to change a thing. And it's the leadership that our subs, really it's pride of ownership, that our subs have taken on all of these processes. So just to kind of trickle down, if anybody's listening to this and they're wanting to start this from ground up and so on, you have to go to your job sites. Period. We're lucky enough to have two VP. So I could go to one and Victor can go to another. Yeah, he's got work boots on.
Boots every day, baby.
Make sure you're steel toe compliant. And so that's first and foremost. But If for whatever reason there's another project going on, like I said, 10 to 15, I'm not omnipresent. So 10 to 15 going on, our framing crew, our drywall crew, our plumbing, our mechanical, our electrical, they all have a supervisor, a foreman, if you will. And it's pride of ownership. They take that responsibility as if they are the GC, that they're the ones running the project, because they know that if they do it right, come Friday, they get paid. So if you set that precedent in culture, when I go to visit that job site, maybe I wasn't there all day, but I do go touch it at the end of the day. It's been working on. There's somebody there. There's somebody touching it. They're supervising what's going on. If they have a question, they call me. That happens more often than not. They call me, say, hey, what do you think about this? FaceTime is a great resource, especially even in the inspection world. We could talk about that. They're doing FaceTime inspections now. So FaceTiming helps. Hey, what do you think about this truss? Or what do you think about this strap? Or what do you think about this position? And in some cases, I'll say, hang on, I'm headed there because I need to see it physically to make that call or decision. Or maybe I need to consult with the owner to make the ultimate decision. That all helps. AI systems helps. It takes 3 weeks generally for a larger company to do a bid. My company, 24 hours.
Yeah. So tell us, how are you using AI in this space? Because a lot of business owners are trying to figure out what that looks like for them. And they understand that they should be leveraging artificial intelligence, but they're not sure exactly where to put it and how trustworthy it is to use it. Like, last thing you want to use is AI built this house and then the house comes crashing down, or AI built this building in the bath, because it doesn't get it all right now. So how are you using it to make sure that you're finding efficiencies in the business and in the processes?
One of the main apps that we have now that we use, there's a software that's incredible that Patrick found. Instead of going through your plans and having to take all this meticulous detail that you have to overlook all the time and analyze to come up with materials and how many things you have to buy, we have a software that we use now that the software can analyze the entire plan set. And it'll tell you down to the screw what you need to build a house, and it quantifies it all for you. So once we have all of this information, we can now block everything that we need, down to the 2x4 stud, everything. We can now import that to another software that we use that will now find local stores. It's connected to local stores that we use, different providers, and it'll give us a price for all of these things. So instead of having to spend weeks analyzing plans to come up with a number and hope that you're right, and then now you got to call everybody and sit there on the phone making phone calls to figure out how much all this stuff is going to cost as you're estimating the project, now AI can spit that out for us extremely quickly.
Let me explain on to that, because I want to be very cautious as to how we're representing that. All of what he's saying is absolutely true, but it's all open sourced, and the AI systems that we currently have and what even the public is accessing is very weak in nature. It's garbage in, garbage out. What do I mean? If you ask it a question, it meaning AI, whether you use ChatGPT, Claude Sonnet, whatever it is you're using, sometimes it'll make it up and it's not even real. In fact, in the legal profession, there are lawyers that are using AI now. They're getting disbarred because AI, it's asking it, hey, give me case law that will defend or support this. And it just spits out a fake random case, and they're not going back to check it. Shame on them. And they're putting it in their pleadings, and they're getting disbarred because the opposing counsel says, I can't find this case anywhere.
There was actually one that I read about where the attorney is representing his client, and he's stating all these cases according to such and such versus such and such in 1973 or whatever. And he's stating all these cases, and the judge goes, I don't see that anywhere. And he ultimately ended up having to say that he used AI to build this case. You ever check with AI? Did you ever validate to see if this was real? And he said, well, I asked AI if these were actual cases, and it said yes.
Yeah. So if you go and ask AI, hey, analyze this PDF for me, you can't do that. It will spit out information. It'll tell you, hey, your project is 4,000 square feet. Here's some quantities. But here's the problem. Line weights are different for every drawing that you submit. Maybe a wall type is earmarked differently. What AI is really good at, though, is reading. So it can actually summarize and read general notes within the plan set that might otherwise be looked over. So it gives you things to really look for and quantify. So then the reason I say that is it's not just a automatic one size fits all, it's going to give you what you want. We actually have to, through the open source platform, tell it, hey, I pay X amount per cubic yard for concrete. So when it submits the invoicing or it submits the estimate, it's based on information that I pre-tell it what, in fact, we charge and pay for. Now, with respect to looking up links and attaching itself to Lowe's or Home Depot, yes, it does do that. It does pull the information. But the challenge with that too is, for example, if you need a fire sprinkler pipe, it actually cannot recognize that a certain Schedule 40 pipe is not meant for a fire sprinkler. So it's not a one size fits all. It's not a complete answer. But because of how we've integrated the multiple systems that we do, we're able to take the information, apply our human element to it, which ultimately is us, and then we can produce those estimations based on what we have done in the past, what we pay for, what we know our labor costs are, and then spit that out to a full-blown estimate for the client. So AI helps us dramatically get to the point where we have some quantitative application, and then we qualify those as the human. We don't let AI qualify those, and it's out to an estimate.
So I love that. You have to train your AI to set the parameters to give you the right
100%.
information,
Yes.
which is what you were talking about, garbage in, garbage out. If it doesn't even have a basis to build from,
Correct.
I personally, who am not a builder / developer, I can't say, you know what, I'm just going to use ChatGPT and freaking build my own house. I don't need to hire these guys to build my office building or whatever else, right? I can just buy some land and build a house, plug it into ChatGPT and tell me everything that I need and source where to get those from for a 4,000 square foot home in Winter Garden, Florida, whatever. And I can't just do that without having the knowledge that I've actually planted into it, which is where you guys come in. You're training your AI and then saying, now, based on these parameters, give me some information. And then you guys go back and make sure that that's accurate based on what you know about the project.
Yeah. So in your example, it's less of a risk for that person to walk that line and figure it out for themselves. The risk comes in the company that is doing this for your clients, as an example, that doesn't know what I know, what I'm telling you, and just puts it in ChatGPT and says, hey, give me all the steps to build this house. And then they're taking your client and trying to walk through that. And there's going to be grave mistakes. There's going to be miscalculation of budgeting. There's going to be miscalculation of processes. So who does that hurt? That hurts everybody. So AI can be just as dangerous as it is helpful. So like it is garbage in, garbage out. So you really have to know what to tell it, what to look for. And you're not just like a calculator. Don't rely on it in its entirety. There is a human element, qualify versus quantify. The quantification purpose of AI is great, but the qualifying has to be the professional.
The more you use our systems, because you're constantly inputting new data points, there's a performance curve where these systems, they become easier to use because now they have more information as it accrues in, like info on new projects that have different requirements. So it's a very powerful tool.
That's really cool. And I think you guys make a really great point. And I'm glad you reframed that, Patrick, because as a real estate agent, if I bring a client, let's say I'm not in Florida and I don't know anything about VP Development Enterprises, I'm getting a referral for a developer that I know who can help my commercial client build whatever they need to build. And they're like, oh yeah, we're also AI driven and we're da-da-da. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's better. And this is true across really any industry, but it could lead to a level of laziness when there's so much dependence on the AI. So the last question on this part is, if there is a real estate agent out there, a broker out there who wants to kind of vet a development company for their client, what are some of the big questions that they should be asking in order to vet a company and make sure that they're legit?
I think in any scenario, the portfolio is a good question. What have you built? What have you done? If my customers are not comfortable at least telling any potential client their experience, I'm not doing a good job, and that's a red flag. So references. I think references are a huge thing. There's some red flags. Like I've come into meetings before where I may have been the third or fourth company somebody has spoke to. And they said, well, when I walked in and I asked how much something would cost, they told me right away. Red flag. Immediate red flag. That's dangerous. Either A, they asked ChatGPT how much something should cost based on Central Florida materials. And that's because there's so many variables, especially in commercial. And it's dangerous because we have something in our organization called change orders. And I know Victor likes to talk about this, and I can have him talk about this. If I give you an entry base price, I know that based on a conversation or plans that I see, that in the future, there would be change orders. And I can recapture what I may have missed. So it's kind of like a bait and switch thing. And what I tell all our clients, one, I want to see plans, and I want to value engineer those plans, and I want to make sure everything is on those plans. For example, I just had a School of Rock corporate referred a new school in the west part of Florida. And I reviewed their plans and I said, hey, you told me you had this, but the plans say something different. Or maybe you said something was there now, or something is to be installed that is not there, but you think it's there. All these things equate to dollars. And I could have held quiet, knowing me as a professional, seeing these plans and saying, yeah, there's definitely going to be an issue 6 months from now. I can whack them with some change orders. That's not how we operate as an organization and a company. As soon as we meet potential clients, we tell them that. It may take longer on the front end for me to bring you through the process, but it's going to pay dividends later. It's going to be more cost effective for you because our company, we don't do change orders. My price is my price. Now, you change something from tile to imported carpet from Persia, yes. But we make sure that everything that is from zero to hand over keys is in the plan set, calculated and estimated. And there's no deviations, no questions that come up say, well, the plans say your professional that you hired said this, so what am I to do? None of that exists for here. And all of our clients appreciate that. So I think references are absolutely important because, I mean, even municipalities would vouch for us and our ability to do work. So
Yeah,
references is a good start.
that's awesome, man. I think that it is helpful for the people who are listening, the audience who's listening to this, because you never know. And we always want to be a point of contact for people. Maybe there's some budding developers that are out there and they're trying to figure out how to make sure that they stand out amongst the competition. But then there's also a lot of people who don't know who to call. And when they start having these initial conversations, they want to kind of feel like they know a little bit at least. You don't want to be completely green. So I think listening to this episode will help them to kind of get an idea of what they should be looking for. I want to turn the page and talk a little bit about investor leverage and capital and how you guys are leveraging capital in order to get into some of the large scale projects that you've done and that you may even still be doing. Well, first of all, what is the biggest project you've done thus far?
In terms of capital,
Yeah, capital.
27 million.
27 million. Okay. So now I imagine you didn't fund it out of pocket. Is that accurate? Okay. So you guys work closely with private investors, I imagine.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So what does leveraging investor relationships look like in your process? And how have you guys scaled those partnerships to grow?
So we don't actually take investors' money to do projects that we own, buildings that we own, things that we do is banking relationship lending between Victor and I. We don't have outside private equity people come in for that. In projects like a School of Rock or a medical expansion, those funding sources are from the client and whatever they provide from whether it's cash or a lending institution, investment groups. We have an investment group that Victor will talk about that does commercial portfolios, and they do high-end renovation homes. They come to us and they have a pool of money that we'll draw from and do the things that they do. Multiple different ways in how our organization operates. But from a landlord and ownership perspective for us, that's all Victor and I and our lending institution that we partner.
Yeah. One of the things that we do with the foreign investors, that was actually one of the ways that we started our company with the construction and all. Our real estate contacts with international clients, they would come to us and say, hey, Victor, hey, Patrick, I have $1 million. What can I do with $1 million that would yield a great return? Now, when we started this business, we were back in the days where we were giving these investors, we even had a project in Winter Park that yielded close to 40% return. Those are crazy days. Those days are long gone, but that's typically how it works. We find out how much capital they have available, which is usually a discussion that requires a lot of trust, because I find that a lot of people don't want to reveal their hand. They don't want to tell you how much they have, what they want to do. So we discuss with the investor. We find out how much they can chew, what they really want to do. We identify the land. Because we have a real estate background, we review the MLS, search the MLS, we get all of our comps, we do our CMAs, we find out, do our diligence, find out how much property is selling for. And then the neat thing is, being real estate guys and not just construction guys, most construction guys, they just know how to build. You tell them you want a house, 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom, they'll build you a 4-3. We have real estate eyes. So we like to put a pizzazz, we like to put a flair. There's a charisma to the style of homes that we build, because ultimately we know, because we are the ones that have to sell them through our real estate side of the business. So we designed this project for an investor, and we try to give them the look within their budget. And we find out what looks good in this neighborhood. What does the market dictate that's selling high right now? Is it the Calacara quartz? Is it the Infinity Edge pool? Is it the look to below ceiling? Whatever the features are, we'll build that project, and we'll provide our investor with a pro forma so that he can see exactly how much return he's making on his investment. And we'll also give him, a timeline of how long the project is going to take. So our clients, they're going to know exactly how much they're going to invest. And the way we break it down, it's very detailed. We tell them how much the land is going to cost, how much money he's going to spend in closing costs, how much the construction is going to cost, closing costs from the other construction. And then we also have created relationships and networks with many different firms that help international clients with their taxes, so they don't have to pay foreign investors taxes through FIRPTA regulations. There's a way that they can do this legally and keep the money in the country, so they can keep reinvesting the money with us. So what we do is we like to get our investors and we build them wealth, while also we create our own wealth while we're managing these projects. And then with this capital that we create by servicing the customer, Patrick and I, instead of buying Ferraris and Lamborghinis, we reinvest it into the business, and then we leverage the bank, because now we can use the bank to qualify for our own projects. And that's pretty much how we do it. We have to have a lot of the work side of things going, so we can create the capital to qualify for these larger loans that Patrick and I have to take, so we can go after bigger, more income producing, more ambitious projects.
So exactly how many Ferraris and Lamborghinis do you guys have?
0.
Not one. I have a Ram 1500.
Keeping it humble. I love it. I think I agree. That's important. When you're leveraging other people's capital, you better make sure that they have the return that they're looking for. And you get a lot of international investors, because Victor, you speak English, Spanish, and Portuguese. Is that right?
And drunken German.
And drunken German. I took 2 years of German. My mother, she learned German when she was in Brazil. She went to a Catholic school. So to make my mom proud, I took 2 years of German. So I know how to hold my own in German, but not the best.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool, man.
Yeah.
Now, as you guys have expanded from smaller developments to like full-on commercial and residential builds, what triggered those inflection points? Like, how did you know that it was time to begin expanding into something else? We talked a little bit about this earlier, but like choosing the market that you're in right now, expanding within that market, and then also diving into other parts of the business in different ways. How do you choose which projects that you're going to work on that can scale both financially and operationally?
Yeah, I think it's important to say how we originally got to where we got to with respect to why we're doing what we're doing. I was a real estate guy. I sold land. That's what I did. And the clients that I sold land to, whether 90% of them were doctors, but the business professional world, foreign nationals, they would call us and they would say, hey, I'm in Egypt, or I'm in Europe, or I'm in India, or whatever. Can you build the thing that I bought the land for? And it was an interesting question, because at the time, the answer is no, I can't. But my personality, I become a student of the game. And so I said, let me assimilate a team that are trustworthy, where I could learn, be a part of the process. And within 1 year's time, back in 2016 to 2017, I understood how to take a project from zero to finish. And that's what birthed our company. So we crawled, we walked, and now we're running. And every project is different in nature, especially in commercial, because you have horizontal development and you have vertical development. So horizontal, you have storm pipes, you have new infrastructure, you might have old clay pipes. There's how do you manage those? How do you deal with those? You have certain bonds that are required by municipalities if you're in their right of way or you're working on the roads. You have OSHA regulations, you have DEP, you have St. John's. All of those things create extreme complexity, even FWC for that matter. We had a project where there was 82 gopher tortoises on site. So we had to learn about relocation and what that meant, and found out that it's kind of a racket. We caught the relocator lying to us about how many, in fact, they relocated.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's a thing. So each project offers a very unique, complex thing. And so you will see some firms, they'll specialize in quick to serve restaurants. They don't care about anything else. That's what they do. You'll have some lawyers that only do construction law. And that's because there's so many things outside that they don't even want to be bogged down with, and they want to be expert in their fields. We consider ourselves general practitioners in the development industry because we do them all. We've worked with all of the organizations, all the governing bodies, even the Army Corps of Engineers, which is in North Captiva as a project that we've done. So we understand the processes, Victor and Patrick. And that all helps and aids to the selection of projects that we do. So we're not going to say no because we're only focused on quick to serve restaurants. Somebody comes at us with a hotel, we know how to get that done because either we've done it ourselves as personal ownership or we've done it for clients. Restaurants specifically are my area of expertise. I can go into a restaurant and tell you how much something's going to cost, and I can tell you how to go through the DBPR or the Department of Agriculture channels because I've done it. So I consider us to be general practitioners in that regard. And when our selections come, we'll take them all. We know how to take them all. We know how to execute those things. So
you mentioned how you started to where you guys are now.
yeah.
So all of that development of the company is created truly by an evolution in your mindset as leaders. You're a different leader now than you were years ago when you first started this. I want to get into the growth mindset. Like, how has your mindset evolved from launching the firm to leading a multi-project operation? What are some of the internal changes that you needed to make in order to be the version that you are now and run the multi-project operation?
Knowledge is power. You have to be educated on what you're doing. It could be extremely stressful with the learning curve. For example, you build a School of Rock. They have franchise guidelines. And if you don't know how to execute on those guidelines, it's going to be really frustrating for that individual to go through that process. And so you will find that in the early stages of our company, there was a lot of stresses and a lot of pressure. Why? Because some may say we took on too much. Some may say we took on something that we had no knowledge of or had limited knowledge of. But Victor and I made a commitment to ourselves to be a student of the game. And we knew that we were going to be under immense pressure. We knew that it was going to be a learning curve. But as long as our mindset was, we're going to figure it out, we're going to get through it, it's not so much about how much stress and pressure we're under. It's fighting through it to get to the other side, which is the finalization of whatever project we were doing. So now, fast forward to today, there's really not a project that we couldn't take on that we weren't absolutely confident that we knew how to finish. But in the early stages of our development in our group, there was a lot of uncertainty. We were really good at getting to, let's say, the framing stage. But beyond the framing stage, we kind of had to figure it out. We had to figure it out. And so knowledge is power. That's knowing how to do it. And if you're like Victor and I, we align ourselves with people that know a lot more than we do, that do a lot bigger projects than we do, because we're learning. And we figured out that in some cases, we don't want to be there. We don't want that added stress and pressure of having 1,000 employees. We would much rather build a family and hire it all out. So that comes with a possibility of not being a billion-dollar company, but we're okay with that. Success is defined in many different ways.
One of the things that I want to mention, Mike, this is a great underpinning to the growth of our company too. Knowledge is power. And a lot of people don't believe it when I say this, but both in real estate and in construction, I find that the highest reward that I get, the biggest form of payment, is the knowledge that I can extract from people that have been in the game many, many, many more years than I have. If you're able to put aside your pride and just listen to people and learn and truly have a humble heart to learn what they have to teach. There are so many little hidden nuggets of knowledge, little tidbits of information that you can pick up on. It might be because you have been used to doing things on your own for so long, or maybe you were always the right person in the room. So now you created this hubris where you think you're always correct and it's impossible for you to be wrong. So when you learn from other people, you grow so much. And Patrick and I, our relationship, we grew tremendously because you're talking about two guys that have type A alpha male personalities. We want to walk in the room. We want to be seen. We want to be heard, and we want to be correct. So then you get these two guys and you put them together with difference of opinions. I mean, we love each other, but there were moments in the beginning of our relationship where I just couldn't stand Patrick because I'm like, you're wrong. You're wrong. And he's like, Victor, you're wrong. It actually became a thing. Like sometimes we'll come up with crazy, like on long drives when we're going to a project far away, we'll come up with like crazy legal theories and we'll debate them against each other on a 1-hour drive. Nonsensical conversation just because we have that nature to be right and to argue. And sometimes if you're not careful, and I say that with humor, but the truth and the reality is in many relationships, the reason the business partnership doesn't work is because the business partner doesn't respect or love the other business partner. And I say love, a lot of people might go, love, it's a weird word. No, you have to care for the person as if the way you care for yourself. And that's a promise that I made to Patrick. And it's something that Patrick also feels the same about me. When we started this business, I said, Patrick, I want to make you a millionaire, man. Because if I can make you a millionaire, that means that I'm also going to be a millionaire. Like your success is my success. I am genuinely happy in my heart every time I see Patrick succeed in something, every time I see him achieve a new accomplishment. And if you don't have that kind of selfless care for your business partner, when things get tough in the business and difficult, you might have insecurities that can creep up into your heart and raise questions and challenges. You can have issues that arise. You can have just a bad environment where you guys are second guessing each other because you might not think that you know what your true intent is or if there's any hidden motives and everything. So we have such a clarity in our relationship that sometimes it's too much. Like I know when he's upset, he knows when I'm upset. I know when he's happy, he knows when I'm happy. We understand each other. So the ability to work together so closely for so many years, we know each other's personality, and we are now at a cool place where we can sit in a room sometimes for 30 minutes without talking to each other. It's like he knows what I'm thinking. I know what he's thinking. We know what each other is working on, and we just have that same energy. And that's the same page. And we bring that into our projects. And that has been such an incredible thing to see, that growth in our partnership. And the person that reaps the reward for that, the people that reap the benefits, it's our customers. Absolutely. Because it just makes the company better.
That's one of the things that I liked about you guys. When I first met you, I brought a client to you and who wanted to build their dream home, a family compound. And we had found the land that we were going to build it on. It's 10 acres out in Claremont. And we said, all right, well, now we need somebody who knows how to build a family compound, all of the different rules and regulations around how many houses can be built on this plot of land and all of the things, the size and space. And we spoke to a few different developers and builders. But once we had begun working with you guys, it was like night and day difference. It was exactly what it would needed to be. It made my client feel like these are the guys, and which made me look good. So thank you for making me look good. The house is looking amazing. Looks like they might even be able to be in there before Thanksgiving, possibly sooner than that. And I'm just really giddy with excitement for my clients. They take pictures of the property all the time. They're constantly sending me photos like the walls have gone up, the roof is on, this is happening. And So I'm getting those updates very regularly, and I'm thankful for you guys for being who you said you were at the outset. And
You know
it
what I'll
shows.
say to that? I love that. When going through the process of selecting clients and kind of your point, it's just as much as an interview for us as it is for them. Because for us, it's transactional second, but it's relational first. In my mind, can I get along with this client? Can we be friends? Can we hang out outside of the transaction in which we're about to talk about? And so as we have these conversations about life and children, now I have 10 years ago when I was young, I didn't have kids, so it was hard to relate to those that may have had children. Now I have children. So we have these conversations about kids and Disney and all these things, and maybe nonprofit organizations that they're associated with, or maybe it's a faith-based organization that we align with, and all the things. I mean, we have to have some sort of unity in not everything, but that relational aspect of it, because we're going to spend, in this particular example, we're going to spend the next 6 to 9 months together, right? So I have to know what your pressure points are. You have to know what mine are. You have to know the level of communication is different for everybody and what they're expecting. So it's just as much as an interview process for us as it is for them. And I think that has also contributed to the success of our client satisfaction, but also our company, because it's relational first. This is not a one and done. We're not transactional and it's over. Like, we want a lifelong relationship with that person. So that's how we approach to things.
That's good. I have two final questions for you guys that I think align with some of this. First of all, what's your favorite project that you've either worked on or are currently working on that you want people to know about?
Well, it's your clients, of course.
Well, see, this is why you're on.
I was waiting to see what you're going to say.
That was good. Right on time. That was perfect. So
I
your
don't know that-
second favorite project is?
Yeah. If we had a Mount Rushmore of projects, the School of Rock was a very cool, really cool project. One, because I'm actually a professional musician. I play professionally. I've gotten paid to travel to play professionally. So I do have this
Professional, but I am a musician as well, but not professional. Okay.
pro-am.
Amateur. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I do have this gravitation, that pull to something like that. And it was a cool project because I'm passionate about music. I'm also passionate about education, and it's musical education. It was more than just a building. The concept was cool. Sticks are sticks, block is block. It all goes up kind of the same way in some regard, but the concept was amazing. And I will say the L-Rod, I think we all agree that home in Claremont is amazing. Why? Because modern day now, everybody wants glass walls and box-esque homes. This one is cool. It's colonial in nature. The underlying foundation of which they had a vision for this actually aligns with my family's passion for Gilmore Girls, the show. My wife loves Gilmore Girls. We named our daughter Lorelai. They have a daughter Lorelai. Again, a relationship of it. So they kind of modeled their house after the grandmother's house in the show and a lot of those old style millworkings. And so it's art at that point. And we, Victor and I, both love to take the client's vision and bring it to fruition and then be like, wow, this is amazing. I mean, it's gratifying to know, like, we get texts from the owners saying, this is exactly how I envisioned our staircase, or this is exactly how I saw our fireplace, or whatever the case is. So I'd say those two projects are definitely on the Mount Rushmore of ours. The other one for me is conversions of abandoned or dilapidated in nature buildings and creating something magnificent. So what do I mean? This termite infested house that was essentially sinking in Orlando off of Bumby, we converted to a well stabilized, beautiful daycare that now the community enjoys and has hundreds of kids attend. Because I was like, let's do a vaulted ceiling here. And they're like, how in the world are you going to do that? Just trust me. And we did it. That was definitely, at least for me.
I mean, look at the Montrose Street Market. We took a ran down, closed old paint shop. It was an old paint shop in the middle of downtown Claremont, closed down. We went in there. We completely cut out part of the second floor, exposing the first floor all the way up to the second floor. We put in a landing pad, staircase. We turned that thing around to a food hall now with 11 businesses, a bar. You can go there to get Philly cheesesteak, sushi, hamburgers, crepes, empanadas, IPA, the works, tacos, burritos. So now we opened the Montrose Street Market in the peak of the pandemic, and those concepts where making money is great, having a profit is great. You know, we all have bills to pay. We all have to make money. But when you can have these projects that you see create a direct impact where it changes the paradigm of a city, the downtown, the feeling, the vibe, the energy, it's so much more rewarding. Piggyback off of Patrick when he mentioned School of Rock. My kids go to the School of Rock. They love the School of Rock. And if you see the energy now in the afternoon as these young teens are rehearsing their instruments right there in the garage door, all the different businesses, they come out to look, and the people just walking in the streets, they hear the music. So now on a given afternoon in downtown Claremont, instead of just being nothing going on, you hear live music, you see families, and these families that come to drop off their kids at the School of Rock, now they patronize the local businesses. So in turn, our project is actually generating economy and wealth for the businesses. So it's cyclical and it's symbiotic in nature. And that's very rewarding, very rewarding.
Dude, it's one of my favorite places to be in Claremont, for sure. That downtown Claremont area, what you guys have done with that Montrose Street Market. I've had the cheesesteaks from Daniel's Cheesesteaks over there, man. I've patronized it. You know, I've been to Sacred Spirit. No, what is it?
Roasted Spirit.
Yeah,
Roasted Spirits, right? The Roasted Spirit.
Roasted Spirits.
Over there. And then we have the School of Rock that's right there now that you guys have built. It's just a beautiful project. And I can see why it's been such a labor of love for you guys to have even been a part of that and bring
Very
that
much
back
so.
to the vibrancy that I think the community deserves. So kudos to you guys for that. In closing, what's one piece of advice that you'd give to someone starting a development business today? In today's climate, and of course, things have changed. We talked a little bit about AI, but what would you impart into somebody who wants to start their development company today?
Ask questions. Ask questions of people that have done it for much longer, more successfully than they are. Because our industry is so complex in nature, not that it's hard, not rocket science, but there's a lot of parts and pieces and puzzles. So if you're going to get into this, whether it's building ownership, commercial building ownership, or development and construction, ask questions of those that have done it. Don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah, piggyback off of what Patrick said, the same thing. It's you never pretend to be the know-it-all to impress a customer if you don't know what you're talking about. We have grown so much because we were not afraid to say we don't know. But you know what we're good at? We know how to research. No one can research better than us. And once we find out the answer, we're going to become the experts at this issue. So that's one of the biggest takeaways in this industry. A lot of people, because it's very competitive in nature, they want to act like they know it all. They want to impress their customers. And then you can really get into a very expensive problem in this industry if you get into a situation that you don't know how to get yourself out of. So just ask questions, be a student of the game, research, do your homework. You have to be in love with this. A lot of people joke, they say, you know, you and Patrick, you guys just talk business, man. You guys never talk anything else. Like, that's your fun. You guys are at a resort, you guys are on vacation, just talking business. Because for us, business is fun. If we think about a deal, we think about a piece of land, we think about a property, what we can do, how we can develop it, because that's how enamored you have to be with what you're doing. You have to be fully sold out into this.
It's life work integration. And it's, like I said, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. And so you guys are the living embodiment of that. And I love to see the partnership. I love to see what you're bringing out of the ground. And your clients, of course, are loving it as well. And hopefully our audience is loving this as well. So if you enjoyed this episode, make sure you show some love in the comment section. We'd love to hear from you. If you have any questions, make sure you reach out to us as well. We're going to put all of their contact information in the description. So thank you, Patrick and Victor, for being on the Leverage Lounge podcast. We appreciate you guys, and we'll look forward to seeing you real soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike.
Well, That's a wrap on this episode of The Leverage Lounge, the podcast where high performers pull back the curtain on how they scale smarter, not harder. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that like button and drop a comment, and make sure you subscribe for more high-level conversations just like this one. And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, be sure to follow, leave a review, and share this episode with someone in your circle who's ready to scale. I'm Mike Collier. Thanks for listening to The Leverage Lounge. See you next time.